is a chance to go over some of the lab equipment that will be on your upcoming quiz and that you need to know in general when you are working in your science lab. The first is basic stuff here, your safety goggles. Some people say safety glasses. Either way is fine as long as you wear them when appropriate for class. The second item on your list is a test tube. 2 words, test tube. We use this a lot of times to heat items up or to gently swirl and mix them together. And they can be lifted by using this third item on your list called a test tube holder. A lot of times the names that we use for equipment are sensible names that go along with what they look like, what they're made from, or what they do. In this case, it holds a test tube, so it is a test tube holder. This larger item here is a test tube rack, and you use this for carrying lots of test tubes around. The safe way to hold a lot of test tubes together is to keep your arm pressed against it so they don't wiggle and jiggle as much. A lot of times there will also be a number of pegs along the front. You can use those when you've cleaned up your test tubes. You know you always have to clean your station when you're done. You can put your test tube underneath, upside down, and let it dry on the pegs in front, on your test tube rack. The next item you should be familiar with, it's a thermometer. This is a basic thermometer. If you read it, it measures at about 21-22 degrees Celsius. In this class, we'll always use thermometers that read in Celsius. Sometimes we use an old-fashioned thermometer like this, and sometimes we'll use a digital thermometer. Old-time thermometers, if you go to Grandma's and Grandpa's house, you might find an old thermometer with a silver line in it. If it's silver, it probably had mercury in it. So that's a toxic thing, and since we try not to put toxic things in our mouths anymore, we don't have thermometers with mercury made anymore. This is something that you would just put in the item and then be able to read the meniscus at the top for your thermometer. The next item on your list, number 6, is this. This is a brush. In fact, it's a test tube brush because it's designed to fit inside of test tubes to clean it out. So the proper name for this is a test tube brush. You can use a test tube brush for other items as well to clean, but since it was made specifically for a test tube, that's why we call it a test tube brush. The next item on your list, number 7, looks like this. Looks like a pair of tweezers, but do not call them tweezers. They are not. Tweezers are for picking out splinters in your skin. These are called forceps. Let me spell that for you. F-O-R-C-E-P-S. F-O-R-C-E-P-S. They're forceps. You use them to pick up small items. If you ever watch a medical show, you might see someone or hear somebody say, "Pass the forceps" during a surgery. Well, these are the forceps. Number 8 on your list might look a little bit different than this. The one on your list actually pictures something called an eyedropper, but this is called a pipette. On your quiz, if I were to put one of the objects in your box for things to identify, I'm okay with you using either one, whether it's eyedropper or a pipette. And let me spell pipette for you. It's P-I-P-E-T-T-E. That's P-I-P-E-T-T-E, pipette. What's nice about these is for dropping small amounts or for sucking up a small amount of whatever liquid you're working with, and sometimes there's even markings on them for measurement. This measurement goes from 0.5 to 1, 1.5 to 2 milliliters. Number 9 is next on your list, and it's just this little guy. It looks like a cup. It's a beaker. You can use it for heating objects up, for swirling, for mixing, but it's not used for accurate measurement, but you can get a basic idea of measurement within a beaker. It looks kind of like a little glass cup. Next to it here is my Erlenmeyer flask, and yes, you do need to know both names with that, so let me spell Erlenmeyer now. E-R-L-E-N-M-E-Y-E-R. It's E-R-L-E-N-M-E-Y-E-R, flask. You have to use both words when you describe it. On your quiz, am I going to take off for spelling? I probably should, but I probably won't. As long as I can really clearly tell that you meant Erlenmeyer flask, I'll probably be okay. With your Erlenmeyer flask, we have this little device, which is number 11 on your list. It is rubber, and you use it to stop things, which is why we call it a rubber stopper. It's just a rubber stopper. Sometimes rubber stoppers have holes in the top, and that's to allow for a gas exchange. So if you're dealing with a mixture in here that's going to create some gases. You don't want to have an explosion, so you'd want a rubber stopper with holes in it. This one is not, so it is for keeping everything inside contained. Number 12 on your list is this. This is a graduated cylinder. It's used for measuring with quite a bit of accuracy. You can measure to about 1% accuracy in a graduated cylinder. 13 is a Bunsen burner. You have to use both words. If you come up with something that you invented that will be used in science labs and classrooms around the world, you can have your name on it. This guy named Bunsen created Bunsen burner, and so he will forever have Bunsen added to this burner's name. Bunsen burners have two things that can change on it. The first is on the bottom. This adjusts how much gas comes into the burner. And then on top, we can twist this part as well, and that will adjust how much air gets in there. Those two things adjust both the heat and the height of the flame. Once you have your Bunsen burner hooked up, you're going to use this device, which sparks. That's why we call it a sparker. As we imagine that we've turned on our Bunsen burner and gas is being released, we want to use a sparker to ignite a flame. So this is number 14, sparker. 15 is called a ring stand. It's a stand that we can then put your next item. 16, round and circular, so it's a ring. You can nicely attach it right onto your ring stand. It just screws into place, and you can adjust its height wherever you need it to be. After your ring stand, you have this piece. This piece is one that a lot of people don't necessarily use in physical science, and use it more in chemistry for sure. It is made out of wire, and if you look carefully at it, these wires kind of make these little squares, kind of like if you were in a first aid kit, you were to get some gauze. It kind of looks like cotton gauze, except made out of metal. So we call this wire gauze. Two words, wire and then gauze, wire gauze. And you set it on top of here just to help balance something or be a heat barrier between one object and the next. 18 on your list is called a clay triangle. Hopefully the shape of it's the obvious part, the triangle. But then these white sections here are the clay part, and it's the clay part, the clay triangle that attaches around here, and you use this to wrap around. The clay can withstand a strong amount of heat, and therefore you can use it to help balance something or hold something while it's getting heated up a lot. Number 19, on your picture, it looks like a little trash can. I don't have a lid. They make these out of both ceramic and out of metal, particular metals. This metal can withstand an extreme amount of heat, and you could balance it, potentially, on a clay triangle. This is called a crucible. That's spelled C-R-U-C-I-B-L-E, crucible. And we will use a crucible a few times this year when we need to heat something up to a really extreme heat. 20. 20 is called, hopefully you know this one, it's a funnel. And we use that to help separate items out based on their particle size. 21, you may not know, but if you do any woodworking or shop work, you should know that something that kind of pinches together to hold something in place is called a clamp. Well, this whole piece together is called a utility clamp, and you can attach it to your ring stand. Again, that's utility, like you have lights and water utilities. This is a utility clamp. You can put it on your ring stand and then clamp something in place. 22, this is a bottle and it holds water, and we use that water to help wash things out, like maybe in a funnel. So we call this a water wash bottle. 3 words. It's a water wash bottle. You don't have a number 23 on your list, but I'd like you to draw it in. These are called beaker tongs. Right? They're beaker tongs, and they're to help you pick up beakers if they're hot or dangerous for you to pick up on your own. You can use beaker tongs. That's it.